So this is our third episode of the season. It's been a long, fun journey for all of us, I hope. Now, looking back at what we've done so far this season, we've looked at issues of the environment. We've looked at different forms of recycling, composting, even how some companies are going green. We've also looked at millennials' use of technology, how we learn, how we interact with each other, and even how we work. Now, for this third episode, we need to get some fresh ideas. What do we have?
Well, this was my first election, Doug, and I felt really confident about who I voted for. And politics is something that sometimes millennials don't always pay too much attention to, but we saw a record turnout.
Okay, so maybe do something on politics. I like that. All right. What else?
Steve, like mentioning elections, I personally feel like I'm experiencing history with a first black president. And I think this brings up the issue of race. So I think we should probably look into that and talk about it.
I like that. Politics, race, what else?
What about something we don't talk about much? Millennials and religion.
Religion.
It's controversial.
Controversy's good sometimes, though, right?
Yeah.
All right, so I think we have enough for a show. We got politics, we have religion, and we have race. I like that. Let's see what we can do.
Every generation has events that shape who they are. The greatest generation defeated fascism in World War II. The silent generation was defined by ambiguity and the forgotten war. Baby boomers had Woodstock, and Generation Xers had the introduction of personal technology. But it is the millennials who could be the next great generation. Join 11 Penn State students as they discover what it means to be this generation. We are the Millennial.
We've seen so many millennials go out to the polls. Why now?
It's probably because of the issues, really. I mean, there's so many things out there affecting us. You have the economy, and you have 2 wars. You know, I mean, a lot of millennials are over there fighting that, so people want to have a say, finally, in their government.
I mean, for most of our lives, for 8 years, we've had the same president. I think a lot of people are looking for some kind of change. No matter who wins it or who won, they're looking for something different.
Something fresh.
Something fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, millennials did a really good job of putting that pressure on each other. And
Yeah, I think it's something that is really going to affect our generation because this person's going to become our president.
Politics is often overlooked by the millennial generation. However, this past election brought record numbers to the polls.
I'm really looking forward to voting my first presidential election.
Yes, this was the first year I voted.
This is my first time voting.
This is my first time.
This is my first time voting, and I voted.
An inspiring 23 million Americans under the age of 30 voted in the 2008 election, an increase of 3.4 million more than the 2004 election. Much of the voter turnout can be attributed to the intense campaign stops at colleges across the United States.
Earn money, but by spreading opportunity, by the hard work of free men.
Bring it home. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you.
I think it's about time we made college affordable and accessible.
Although local government also has a voice in change, it is often overshadowed by the millennial focus on the national election.
I think it's important for all generations, and sometimes when we're younger, we don't pay as much attention to the political arena. And as I try to tell young people when I go into classes to speak, people are making policy that affects your life on a day-to-day basis.
I think they are really important to people that live here, but for me personally, I don't really pay attention to them.
Like local politics, I'm not, like when it comes to state representatives, you know, congressmen, I'm not as up to date as with the presidents. I should be, but I'm not.
This lack of awareness does not transfer to the national level, where record numbers of voters suggest a trend in increased millennial involvement.
Chocolate for Obama.
Yeah!
Sean Malloy is the president of the Penn State College Democrats.
I don't think it can be attributed to any one candidate. I do think it's a trend, but I also think it's a mindset of our generation, thinking of the way that they can impact their government.
Trend or not, on November 4th, millennials took time out of their busy schedules to wait in lines that stretched down streets and around corners, hoping that the 4-hour wait would be worth the impact they could have on the next 4 years.
Well, as you can tell, they're very excited. We've had a tremendous turnout, probably one of the best turnouts that we will have in local history, which is a good thing. We want people to be engaged, we want them to participate, and we've had people of all different parties coming out to vote today, and I think that's very encouraging for our future.
On Election Day, millennials as a whole placed their trust in Barack Obama, hoping that he would benefit the nation and their own futures through change he promised throughout his campaign.
I think Obama can give our generation hope because he's just something different. He stands for change.
I think he represents the change that our generation is wanting, that our generation is looking for.
It's more about hoping he gets his agenda accomplished, turning that hope into actual policy and actual hard accomplishments.
I think the biggest firsthand issue is our economy and the job market, especially as a senior. Looking for jobs now, it's a really crazy time to get into the job market.
The thing I looked at the most in choosing a candidate was their education policies, because I'm an education major.
I'm a minority and a first-generation, Palestinian American, and I feel like foreign affairs are very important to me, international relations in particular.
Personally, I'm also really passionate about the war in Iraq, and I really support how Obama wants to bring them out. I mean, not just like a direct withdrawal, but how he has a plan for that.
I just hope that our economy can do better.
All the financial aid for students and everything that Obama says and how he's going to support us.
He's got a big task before him. I know he's got a lot of high expectations, and I hope that he can pull through.
Just like any other new politician, I hope that he does a good job and doesn't make things worse.
Will the election of our country's first black president affect millennials' view on race? Find out when We Are the Millennials returns.
Put on your dancing shoes, it's time to get your groove on at the Penn State Silent Rave. Sponsored by the university's very own College of Communications, students are busting a move in an effort to support the Save the Music Foundation. After downloading a special playlist from the internet, ravers sync up their iPods and hit the floor dancing.
Great song.
No need for flashy lights or expensive club fees at this party. The Silent Rave craze is bringing millennials together into a dancing frenzy.
I'm Robbie Corrado, I'm a millennial, and this is a silent rave.
I have a dream. One day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color.
Race has been an issue that has affected many generations before the millennials. Millennials, though, have found themselves in a more diverse world and are said to be one of the more tolerant generations.
So how do we address the race issue? How do we tackle the race conversation? Here at Penn State, such a program exists, the Race Relations Project.
Well, pretty much what we're going to do is we spend about an hour and a half talking about the subject of race, and the reason why we started is because we realized there wasn't really a place at Penn State's campus where people could come and talk about race in an open forum.
What we like to do is just put 7 or 8 people in a room with 2 facilitators and close the door and have an open conversation. So people to leave all their political correctness at the door and come in and say and talk about exactly what they feel.
Bye guys, have a nice day.
The Race Relations Project is a closed-door program. For the purpose of the Big Ten, we set up a roundtable session with some of the facilitators.
The general thing I hear is basically, oh, race doesn't affect me, or it's not an issue, or I don't know how it affects me.
People come into the race dialogues, they're like, oh, it's negative. When we're talking about race, it always has this negative connotation. Coming into Race Relations Project and all this stuff before that, it was, for me, it was like I came in with the intent of wanting to listen, wanting to learn.
I feel like for me, another reason is that like we're in college, and I think the Socratic way that we learn from each other in these dialogues is so much more interesting.
We'd like to kind of provide an environment wherein people can arrive at different ideas through questioning.
Learning is another aspect of the Race Relations Project. Students may come out with knowledge that could one day change their lives or that of another.
Something cool that can happen is when people realize that history doesn't unfold without people actively making it turn out a certain way.
We have to choose between change and more of the same.
Millennials have been much more understanding when it comes to the issue of race. And all across the world, there have been initiatives to put race aside. But has this really had an impact on our generation?
How many times do you approach somebody who's not of your same skin color and say, oh, I want to hang out with you, I want to talk to you, without feeling uncomfortable? If it's not an issue anymore, why are we still segregating ourselves?
When that issue of people segregating themselves comes up in groups, people will initially say, well, that's just what people naturally do. But then when we start to get beneath that a little bit to the way they really feel about it, I always find that there's this huge undercurrent of fear.
Despite this fear, through programs such as the Race Relations Project, progress has been made. But millennials feel race is still an issue that is present.
Today, race is still a big issue.
I don't think it's going to happen overnight. I think we have witnessed change. Our country has overcome a lot.
For today, I think race has somehow found a way to unite the country.
Race has been a controversial issue for a long time. The struggle to triumph over this matter has been an ongoing process, and millennials may be the future to the end of a struggle.
Growing up, were you raised with religion in your lives?
Personally, I definitely was. I was an altar boy, and that's kind of changed since I went to college, to tell you the truth. How about you guys?
I also was, most of my life, all of my life actually, raised with religion in my life. And when I'm home, I'm again back in church, and when I'm back in school, it changes. And it's kind of tough to have a balance between both.
I think it's more with just how our lives are now. It's a lot of based on time, and some of us just don't have time to go to church. I mean, me and my family, we're pretty busy. We'll go on holidays and when we can, but we don't necessarily make it a point to go every week.
The millennial generation can be viewed as a concoction of past American generations. We may have the liberal attitudes of our parents or the conservative morals of our grandparents, but every millennial has a particular sense of independence.
As a generation composed of free thinkers, millennials fear that they'll lose their sense of independence by conforming into a single religion. Which brings in the question, are millennials losing their religion, or is the religion losing the millennial generation?
I do believe faith is important. I don't think that people have enough faith at this age right now.
You need to have something to believe in. I think that if you don't, you're just kind of, you don't know anything, so.
18 to 22 is sort of an age of kind of first being out on your own, finding yourself, and age of exploration.
Growing up, millennials were only exposed to the religion that they were raised with. Now, as independent adults of an ever-growing diverse community, millennials can choose what to believe in.
According to the Institute for the Study of American Religion, Americans continue to pump out new religions at a rate of about 40 to 50 per year.
It gives you a chance to try other religions.
For those who really want to learn more about religions, there are more sources for them to explore, more information available, especially with the advent of internet.
Constructed in December of 2001, the Pasquale Spiritual Center at Penn State has become the largest multi-faith facility of its kind in the country. It has become a place for worship and religious ethical programming. The center also provides millennials at Penn State with a place for spiritual growth and exploration, as well as the exposure to educational opportunities to learn about diverse belief systems.
We have the largest interfaith center in the country. Our responsibilities are to really look at programming issues. We need to make sure that anybody who comes in here is free to come in and practice their particular faith without feeling intimidation or being subject to anybody proselytizing, so that they're trying to convert them. And it's really a venue to just allow students to come in and celebrate their faith in a way that is comfortable and open and really doesn't put any type of restrictions on them.
Studies have shown that American college students are fleeing from organized religion, and now they are reaching out towards a mix and match spirituality. How then are traditional religions reaching out to millennials?
Bible Illuminated is intended to be a unique vehicle for reacquainting today's reader with one of history's most important texts. It seeks to introduce today's audience to a revolutionary contemporary Bible, one that encourages dialogue and is culturally relevant, readily accessible, and easily digestible for any reader. Oddly, the publishers have no religious agenda and support no specific faith.
Well, you know, the Bible is the most sold book ever.
It still is every year. And where do you find it? Often you find it in the bookshelf, and that's sad. The text of the Bible is so important. It's our heritage, it's a literary treasure. And moral ethics, even government laws comes from it, so it concerns us all. So what we are doing here is that we're a small group with art directors and religious scholars who has made it in a new format. It's like a glossy coffee table magazine. And now it's more accessible, it can be everywhere. And also we put in a lot of pictures in it. And it's pictures from the modern world. Some pictures are provocative, some are just lovely. And that's how the word looks like today. And we put that together with the old text, word by word. A book like this is really a way to get interested, because you know how you read a magazine? You flip through it, you don't read it from page 1. And to see an object as a Bible on a desk, you see that's a job to go start with page 1. This one you flip through, and you may get interested in some of the pictures, and then you start reading the Bible. And that's cool.
Yeah, I think if I saw it, it looks pretty interesting.
Kind of like this concept. It's a good idea.
So far this season, we've looked at issues that are important to millennials inside the United States. I think it might be interesting to look at other cultures and other countries and other millennials around the world and see how they define their generation. What do you guys think of that?
Millennials are like the first generation to grow up in this era of globalization.
Well, I've never been outside the country before, so I would like to see like what are the millennials doing in other countries? It'd be pretty interesting.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's a good point. I am from Kenya, and things are different, especially us. We're a very culture-oriented people. We do things traditionally. I mean, not everything, but most of what we do now is based on traditional times, what our grandfathers and grandmothers used to do. So I think that's a very important thing about us Kenyans.
I mean, it's silly to think that every other country and culture out there is the same as ours here. I think we really need to see what the differences are and explore, millennials around the world.
We are the millennials, but who are we? There are over 80 million millennials in the United States today, the largest generation since the baby boomers. But this population, known as Generation Y, extends far beyond our mere American borders.
G'day, I'm Clinton Khan, and I'm a millennial from Melbourne, Australia.
Hi, I'm Jonas Suotamo. I'm a millennial, and I'm from Finland.
My name is Shashank Singhai, and I am a millennial from India.
We're a little adventurous. We're, contrary to a lot of Americans, we're really fascinated by what's happening outside our country. Although Australia it's a huge piece of land, we only inhabit such small parts of Australia that we really want to see what's outside. So travelling is really important. We're very focused on enjoying what's happening now, and not so focused on what's going to happen in the next 5 years.
Youth in Finland, the millennials there, are much more on their toes about the future, whereas American youth are perhaps more secure in a sense that they have everything they need here in America.
India is so diverse a country. The millennials now, they have a more open perspective to things. There is more freedom to do what you want to do.
My name is Natsuki. I'm a millennial from Japan.
My name is Jun, and I'm a millennial from Malaysia.
Millennials of Japan has the quality to balance between tradition and new. For example, the young musicians are trying to incorporate traditional instruments and stuff in the rock music, for example. Our generation is more proud of being a Japanese.
The way we think, the way we live our lives right now, it's a lot closer than people would think to America. We may be a little bit more conservative because it's still a Muslim country, and the way of thinking might still be a little bit conservative, but it's getting there. We're getting more and more liberal with our thinking.
Our generation is very different from the previous generation. We are very curious about learning the outside world. We are very inquisitive.
Chinese people are very hardworking. You can always see students in the library with thick books and textbooks, and they work very hard for the exams. In China, we rely too much on family because family members, they take care of us in all aspects. And that's not very good for Chinese children because you're not independent. You do not make a choice for yourself like which college you're going to attend or which career.
My father's Scottish and my mother's Singaporean. I've lived in the Netherlands twice and all over England. Through it all, I've met a lot of different people from a lot of different places. As a generation, we are different.
Every country has its own customs, culture.
Millennials are certainly a vast generation. While we may be different in our habits or ways of living, we're all connected by the one global truth. The truth that lets each one of us stand up and say,
We are.
We are.
We are the Millennials.
A copy of the program you've just seen can be purchased through Penn State Media Sales at mediasales.psu.edu or by calling 800-770-2111.